Happy holidays, everyone, and welcome to volume 113 of Lesser Known Lost Media. This was one that I had planned before I took a hiatus from the channel, and I thought, hey, you know what? You know what would be a great way to say thank you for all of those who are still around, is to make another Lesser Known Lost Media for the holiday season. Now, this isn't holiday themed, but it is, it is our standard Lesser Known Lost Media format, 5 pieces, 4 family friendly, one that's a little spicier. I just want to say also before we begin, if you are interested at all in my minis or ever have been, every mini that I release onto eBay this season is starting bid only $5. So perfect little stocking stuffers or little gifts to yourself, whether that's the spicy ones or simply the kit bashes and repaints. All of them, if they're posted this month, it's going to be $5. That is new posts, not ones that are automatically renewed. Though if I do renew one that does not automatically repost, it will be $5. And with that being said, let's get to our first piece today. It's good to hear that God bloop again, isn't it? Well, today's first piece is Showbiz Pizza Tribute to the Circus, a partially found animatronic show from 1986. Now, Showbiz Pizza's Tribute to the Circus show tape was officially released in 1986 under the title Circus/Monkeys and featured on what was then its current animatronic show, The Rock-a-Fire Explosion. It included only 3 segments with no skits. It had Monkeys Melody, Tribute to the Circus Medley, Monkeys Medley, Tribute to the Circus Medley, and the Curly Shuffle. The issue most fans have with this tape is how short it is, especially since the Monkeys Medley was recycled from a different show tape, only with Rolf and Earl's original intro cut and the ending trimmed. This tape was recorded and released around a time when creative engineering and Showbiz Corporate were at odds with each other, so new shows from CEI were a rare find. The release of this tape in July would mark the last known new tape release that year. The beginning of the following year would mark Showbiz's continued attempts at replacing the CEI voice actors, a notable downhill turning point for the company's partnership. In recent years, it was discovered that the reason this tape appears so short is that the tape was supposed to be a full-length show themed around the circus, much like Showbiz's previous shows Magic Night and Country Night, but most of the segments were never released in an official capacity for reasons unknown. While the 3 segments officially used in Showbiz Pizza stores are publicly available with full audio and original programming, several sections of the show have never seen the light of day. The full set list has yet to be uncovered, but it is known that the Circus Medley featured in the final tape is actually the Ride Medley. The tape in its entirety was going to be Tribute to the Circus before it was cut and Monkeys Medley was added. There was also going to be an as-of-yet unnamed and still lost Rolf and Earl segment and a Mitzi cover of Smokey Robinson's Tears of a Clown. There has been talk of a cover of Leo Sayers' The Show Must Go On, but confirmation of its existence has yet to be found. Now, on July 13th of 2024, as part of Billy Bob's Wonderland's 4th annual BillyCon celebration, it was announced that Tears of a Clown had been found on a physical reel owned by an unnamed contributor about a month before the event. While the animatronics programming data was not found with the audio, Instagram user Rockafirefan123 was able to program the show for audience viewing. Tears of a Clown, along with several other lost shows from other tapes, debuted that same day on Billy Bob's Wonderland stage. No news has come of the other lost tapes since. Now, I've said this before, I know a lot of people find the old Chuck E. Cheese and Rock-a-Fire Explosion animatronics to be a little unsettling, a little uncanny valley. I think they're awesome. And as a kid, I never really considered that they were, how they actually worked. And the thing of show tapes and programming and all that is fascinating to me. Also, I'm a huge fan of Tears of a Clown, so I'm glad that was found, guys. But it'd be really cool to be able to hear this in its entirety. And as with all things like this, it's just something that if there's stuff we don't have, we're gonna want it. We're never not gonna care. If you're a fan of animatronics, if you're a fan of nostalgia, especially 80s and 90s nostalgia, this is something that would be something you would definitely want to find. And my hope is that someday we do. I mean, we found one piece that was never released, so who's to say we won't find the others? Alright guys, moving on to number 2, keeping that musical theme and that double B alliteration, we've got Buddy Bolden Band Recording. I guess that's triple alliteration. Lost Cylinder Recording from the 1900s. Now, the Buddy Bolden was an African-American cornetist who has been credited by historians and contemporary players as a key figure in the development of jazz. Buddy Bolden and his band were active in New Orleans from 1900 to 1907, and during this time they became hugely popular until Bolden was incapacitated by schizophrenia, which would lead to his eventual incarceration in a mental institution until his death in 1931. Now, Buddy Bolden and his band played a looser form of ragtime than his contemporaries, one that incorporated elements of blues, black gospel music, and marching band music. Bolden was known as a powerful player with an improvisatory style that was novel amongst New Orleans bands at the time, and a clear precursor to the improvisation that would mark early jazz apart from ragtime. Bolden has also been credited by jazz composer and trumpeter Wynton Marsalis with creating the Big Four, the first syncopated bass drum pattern to deviate from the typical marching band beat, which allowed for greater instrumental improvisation. The Buddy Bolden Band, contrary to the typical practice of the time, made string instruments the rhythm section and established brass instruments as the frontline instrumentals. It is said to be the first brass band to play the blues. Bolden has been credited as a major inspiration by many early New Orleans jazz players, such as Kid Ory and Louis Armstrong. Despite the Bolden Band's significance in the early history of jazz, the only testimony to Bolden's sound comes from the accounts of his contemporaries, as there are no surviving records known of his playing. Rumors of an extant recording were rife in the 1950s among New Orleans jazz collectors, given credence by trombonist Willie Cornish's admission that a recording had been made in 1898. Jazz researcher Donald M. Marquis, whose work in search of Buddy Bolden, First Man of Jazz, stands as the preeminent account of Bolden's life, found that a recording was made by a local saloon operator, Oscar Zahn, on his Edison phonograph sometime in the 1900s. Unfortunately, Zahn's recordings were left neglected in a storage shed that was torn down in the early 1960s. Even if the recording survived this, or has been retrieved earlier, the lack of care put into preserving these recordings and the humidity of the New Orleans climate mean that any such recording would no doubt be left unplayable. As such, no recording has been discovered. Over 100 years since its creation, it can safely be assumed that it has been permanently lost. Now, I'm no Lisa Simpson and I'm no connoisseur of jazz, but the simple fact that this guy was so inspirational and said to be so at the time, this wasn't some rumor that came later, like his contemporaries sung his praises, and the fact that we don't have any recordings of what sounds like a very unique sound for the time, it's just a shame, and it's too bad. But unfortunately, from the details we have, I don't think we're gonna find this one, but we can always hope. Now, moving from music into the world of video games, we have Nintendo Minnesota Set a Living Room Lottery Test, a lost, unreleased Nintendo Entertainment System game and add-on from 1991. Nintendo Minnesota Set a Living Room Lottery Test, wow, what a name, was an add-on developed for the Nintendo Entertainment System by Control Data Corp that players could play the Minnesota Lottery. The peripheral would have utilized the cartridge slot on the bottom of the NES, connecting it to a phone line so players could connect to the lottery service. The game was set to have a test release in 1992 to around 10,000 Minnesota residents. However, concerns were raised regarding underage gambling among young gamers, so the project was ultimately shelved. In 2023, Reddit user MTG Army posted a photo of the on r/NES subreddit of a prototype cartridge of the game that the add-on would have used, with many screenshots of the game in action. In 2024, CGC Video Games gave an official grade to the prototype cartridge, it being no grade, NG for short, due to its uniqueness. Now, the game would have been a very basic lottery game where the player could purchase lottery tickets and input their numbers, with some differently themed ones with unique sprite animations such as a fishing game. Now, as to its status, the prototype NES cartridge has been dumped, but not released online in any form as of right now. Now, this is incredibly interesting to me because it comes from a time when people were still testing the waters of what video game consoles and video games themselves could be. And this was, when they were not necessarily considered to be for an older audience for the most part. So the fact that this one, they literally wanted to connect to a phone line, which would have been a novel thing to do at the time, as that was not really something you did with your consoles in the 90s. But it just would have been very interesting that this was definitely, geared at adults. And there were, of course, concerns that kids would play it. But of all things to try with video games, hooking it up to play the lottery, specifically in Minnesota, what a trip. Now, sticking with electronics, our next one is the new world of Teddy Ruxpin, partially lost animatronic voiceovers for VHS and TV content from 1998. Now, in 1998, the companies Yes Entertainment Corporation, Shoot the Moon Productions Inc., and Alchemy 2 Inc. worked together on a relaunch of the famous Teddy Ruxpin animatronic teddy bear. This was known as the New World of Teddy Ruxpin. It featured an updated look for the animatronic bear, which also brought back the built-in cassette player that was on the original 1985 Worlds of Wonder version, but had been replaced with endless loop cartridges on the 1991 Playskool version. This re-release also saw the release of some of the VHS tapes from the 1985 version. However, these tapes were updated to contain hidden data that allowed the animatronic bear to narrate and riff on the VHS content. Yes Entertainment had embedded hidden audio in the VHS tapes before, as they released another animatronic bear in 1993 known as TV Teddy. However, that version involved wireless transmission, while this Teddy Ruxpin version was wired. Now, according to the manual, a special decoder box known as the TV Talk Box is inserted between the VCR and the TV. The signal on the tape enters the box and is decoded. The regular cartoon video and audio are sent up to the TV, while the animatronic movement instructions and narration for Teddy Ruxpin travels along a separate wire to the Teddy Ruxpin toy itself. Then, as the tape plays, the Teddy Ruxpin toy moves and speaks to provide narration. The movement instructions are a barcode that moves up the left side of the screen. The TV Talk Box interprets this barcode and sends an audio signal to Teddy Ruxpin containing an audio tone that the electronics can understand. I hope you understood that, because I did not. Now, if the tape is played without the TV Talk Box in between, both the regular audio and new narration are sent up to the TV. This is because the narration for the Teddy Ruxpin animatronic comes from the VHS hi-fi audio, while the regular cartoon audio is on the regular VHS audio track. Any modern system that can interpret the VHS hi-fi audio will be able to play it back normally. This sometimes leads to problems with the TV Talk Box, as a worn tape or damaged VCR is not always able to lock onto the VHS hi-fi audio. The narration audio is sometimes misinterpreted by the VCR as regular audio, and then it ends up sent to the TV instead of the animatronic. Other times the tape is damaged and the audio is entirely missing. Again, hope you understood that, because I didn't. Now, what exactly about all this is lost media? Well, the tapes were re-releases of the episodes of the original Teddy Ruxpin TV show from the 1980s. The original show lasted for a total of 65 episodes. However, it is uncertain how many episodes were re-released with this new narration. The manual only mentions 6 tapes, in addition to the pack-in tape, The Treasure of Grundo. It is possible that more episodes up to the whole series were planned, but they were never released. Additionally, the manual talks about Teddy Ruxpin interactive programs being broadcast on television and describes how to use the TV Talk Box when tuning into these programs. However, it is unknown if this content was to be different from the known VHS releases, or if it ever even happened at all. Aside from the VHS tapes, the Teddy Ruxpin fan site Grundo Gazette briefly mentions a planned computer pack for the 1998 Teddy Ruxpin that was never released. However, the site does not go into detail as to what computer-based content would have been involved. The online resume of Benson Lamb, one of the developers who worked at Yes Entertainment, contains the only known advertisement for the computer pack. This website proves that the computer pack was in production, and it claims that there would have been software releases that would use this add-on. However, another fan site claims that this would have involved the Teddy Ruxpin animatronic interacting with web-based content. Given that the toy only used a 3.5mm jack with stereo audio, with one track for voice and one track for movement data, this probably would have worked similarly to the VHS tape content. It is unknown how long the VHS tapes were on sale, though one Teddy Ruxpin fan site claims that Yes Entertainment went bankrupt in 1999, just a year after the release. And just so you know, there are 7 episodes that we know of. The first 5, The Treasure of Grundo, Guess of the Grunges, Escape from the Treacherous Mountains, Take a Good Look, and Grubby's Romance are all partially lost in one way or another, while the final 2 episodes, Tweeg Gets the Tweezels and Come Dream With Me Tonight, are both entirely lost. Now, I don't have any real connection to Teddy Ruxpin. I was actually made aware of him much later in my life, so he was not a part of my childhood, but I know people have either very fond memories or they're absolutely terrified of this thing. But whether you love him or hate him, there's stuff that is lost, and we hope that one day we will find it. Alright guys, we're going to get to that spicy piece here in just a second, but again I wanted to mention that, you know, right now in celebration of the holidays and as a chance to maybe make a few extra sales and give you guys a great deal, everything that gets uploaded by me, not anything that's automatically relisted, to my eBay in the month of December is only $5. Again, this is going to be minis, both spicy minis and regular minis, and they are anything that I'm uploading and posting and creating this month is starting bid only $5 over on eBay. So if you're looking for a few fun minis for your collection, I do hope that you'll take a look at it. Also, we do still have the fourth wall. That's not going anywhere, and there's plenty of cool stuff on there, so I hope you'll check it out. And with that being said, let's get to today's spicy piece. Our spicy piece today is Jacques Chirac, a lost, unreleased, compromising photographs of the French president from 2001. On the 4th of August 2001, French President Jacques Chirac was on vacation at the Fort de Brégançon. I don't know, guys. I don't speak French. His stay was constantly troubled by Michael Schumacher, whose yacht attracted a large number of the paparazzi. One incident saw Schumacher take off in his helicopter and fly it near the fort, which prompted Chirac to examine the situation with a pair of binoculars. Unbeknownst to the president, at least 3 photographers captured images of Chirac while he was naked. Now, 2001 saw Jacques Chirac reluctantly agree to stay at the Fort de Brégançon for a 3-week vacation. The fort is a state residence that many French presidents, including Emmanuel Macron, select for their summer stays, though he found Brégançon to be dull. Chirac resided there because of its geological proximity to Var, as well as to appease his wife Bernadette. Other publications speculated his fort trip was in response to criticism of his previous luxurious international travels. Still, he reportedly enjoyed observing nearby yachts with his binoculars, particularly when attractive bikini-clad young women occupied them. However, one yacht owned by Formula One driver Michael Schumacher caused him great consternation. At the time, Schumacher was closing in on his 4th World Drivers' Championship. During the season break between late July and mid-August, Schumacher relaxed in his yacht stationed at Brégançon. For Chirac, Schumacher's presence was a nightmare as the German driver habitually moored close to the fort. Consequently, it raised a number of paparazzi in the vicinity and disrupted Chirac's desire for tranquility. At some point during the vacation, Schumacher once again sailed too close to the fort for Chirac's liking. The president angrily confronted Schumacher over this and demanded the racing driver depart immediately. Schumacher reluctantly complied. Numerous French articles remarked Chirac despised Schumacher's presence during the trip, but on the morning of the 4th of August 2001 at around 8:30 a.m., the F1 driver decided to take off from his yacht in a helicopter. An irritated Chirac, aware no helicopter should be flying over the fort, went to one of the balconies to examine Schumacher's latest antics. He was seemingly unaware photographers were about to capture his every move. Present on a nearby beach was Corbis Sigma agency photographer Stéphane Rouet, who was recently assigned to capture scenes of Chirac. He resided at the beach after he learned the president planned to attend a mass held in nearby Bourg-les-Mimosas the following day. While he finished preparations, Rouet met up with a Varmatine journalist, and a member of the paparazzi. According to an episode of Secrets de History, the paparazzi photographer was there with the intent to follow Schumacher. Some sources claim a fourth photographer hired by a local newspaper was also in the vicinity. The photographer suddenly noticed activity in the Fort de Bourgogne. On the balcony was Chirac, merely wearing his underpants and observing Schumacher's helicopter ascension. Satirical French newspaper Le Canard Enchaîné, I don't know how, man, I do not speak French, I'm sorry guys, which originally broke the story on the 29th of August 2001, reported that Chirac wore not a chic pair of briefs, but rather the slouchy kind. Chirac briefly disappeared from view. 15 minutes later, he arrived back on the balcony with binoculars, but inexplicably, the president was now completely naked and unaware that stunned photographers had subsequently snapped numerous shots of his compromising appearance. After Chirac retreated back into the fort, Rouet et al. Consulted each other regarding their sensitive photographs. Though they found the situation highly amusing, a consensus quickly emerged that the images could not be published. In an August 2018 interview with Le Figaro, Rouet stated nobody identified any journalistic value in the photographs. Additionally, Sigma was concerned the images could affect their ability to follow the president in the future. However, one photographer reneged on the agreement and contacted gossip magazine Paris Match regarding their snaps. At the time, Paris Match garnered notoriety for the publishing of controversial photographs. This included risque images of Princess Diana, Princess Caroline, and Sarah Ferguson, to the infamous deathbed photograph of former French President François Mitterrand. However, Paris Match director Alan Jeanstar decided against publishing the snaps. In his initial comments, Jeanstar summed up the images as degrading and humiliating. Upon being asked why previous risque photographs of celebrities were published, Jeanstar clarified that Paris Match found them newsworthy. He also insisted that if we stooped to printing pictures of every celebrity caught naked through a window, we'd be printing all kinds of rubbish. Jeanstar was shortly afterwards contacted by Le Monde, who wanted to verify the existence of the naked photographs. The Paris Match director denied rumors his newspaper purchased the pictures to block their publishing. He also claimed he merely saw 6 to 8 color photographs of Chirac in light clothing. Weekly magazine Voici also denied having any images in their possession. Meanwhile, Élysée Palace went into damage control mode. Advisors had reportedly reprimanded all the photographers and various French newspapers, potentially keen on publishing the pictures. One newspaper editor publicly stated that he was ordered to do the sensible thing should he come across them. The main concern involved the prevention of the photographs being accessed by less sympathetic British, German, and Italian tabloids. Some articles also claimed Chirac's daughter and communication press and opinion advisor Claude had stepped in to stop their publication. She had notably blocked the release of an image showing her father in tears after his 1995 presidential election victory. Interestingly, Chirac narrowly avoided landing in further hot water. According to Rouet, international television cameras arrived just 30 minutes after Chirac departed to capture footage of the fort. Following this ordeal, Chirac ceased his regular trips to Fort de Bourgogne, having felt the fort was not secure or discreet enough for him. Nowadays, enhanced security at the Fort de Bourgogne means no photographs can be taken while the president resides there. Now, research conducted by Le Monde indicates the photographs taken by Rouet are the most intriguing. Varmatine insisted their photographer's snaps were unusable because his camera lacked a sufficiently powerful lens. Meanwhile, the linked paparazzi agency denied their pictures contained anything of noted value. In contrast, Corpus Sigma confirmed their photographs' legitimacy, but also refused to release them. Rouet to this day has rejected requests to release the relevant pictures. Interestingly, Le Monde never mentioned any further agencies during their investigation, indicating the 4 photographer rumors were false. Meanwhile, Les Paparazzis de la République author Renaud Revel claimed that compromising Chirac photographs still reside in the Paris Match archives, with no plans to ever release them. Now, if I have any listeners, viewers in France, please let me know if I am incorrect with this statement. But I was under the understanding that it is illegal to openly criticize the French president in France, and that people can, including journalists, can be brought up on charges for doing so. So I can only imagine what may have happened if they had published nude photos of him. Again, imagine if we couldn't insult our president here in America. What would half of TikTok be? But anyway, I feel like there was a lot to be lost via publishing these photos versus any level of anything to be gained from doing so. Hence, they never were. But they still exist, and maybe someday we will see them. And that is our show, everybody. Thank you so much, J-Dog. I noticed you have once again re-signed up. So he was not a member for a little bit. Thought no hard feelings on that, but I just saw he has re-upped his subscription over on Patreon. So thank you for that. Again, to all of you who have stuck with me, I do appreciate it. Again, you're under no obligation to do so. We are taking a step back from this channel and will not be doing videos as regularly as we once were, but I do appreciate the support all the same, everybody. So until next time, whenever that next time may be, I'm Mr. Sean. This is Mr. Sean Productions, and I sincerely hope that you have happy holidays and that you alpha great day and an even beta tomorrow. Bye for now.